Mount Rainier, a 14,410-foot volcano, is considered the deadliest peak in all of North America. As of 2022, more than 400 people have died on the mountain, and there are very few years in the volcano's history that are as dark as 2014. It became one of the deadliest years in decades, and yet to this day, we still don't know exactly what happened. But 6 climbers lost their lives. This is their story. Mount Rainier is the tallest mountain in Washington state and the most prominent in the United States. It is the centerpiece of the more than 235,000-acre Mount Rainier National Park, which is a 2-hour drive southeast of Seattle. This park is more than 97% wilderness, with the remaining 3% being the National Historic Landmark District. Each year, about 2 million people visit the park to sightsee, hike, or throw snowballs. But for those adventurous enough, they come to Mount Rainier to climb. More than 10,000 people try for the summit each year. All routes require ropes and crampons. As the most glaciated mountain in the contiguous United States, Rainier boasts more than 35 square miles of ice and permanent snowfields. Because it is a volcano, it stands alone, dominating the Seattle skyline. And because it is so visible from the city, it often attracts first-time climbers who have stared at the snow-capped peak for many years. There are dozens of routes to the summit, but about 80% of climbers travel via the southeast-facing Disappointment Cleaver, which, despite having to navigate steep and glaciated terrain, is the least technically demanding of the guided routes to the summit. There are 4 other routinely guided routes on Mount Rainier: Emmons Glacier, Kotz Glacier, Führer Finger, and Liberty Ridge, which is the hardest. The Liberty Ridge line slashes across the mountain's north face like a scar, intriguing and deadly. Climbers approach through Glacier Basin, crossing the Winthrop and Carbon glaciers, before ascending the steep fin of the ridge to gain Liberty Cap. The terrain is steep dark rock and slick blue ice, and climbers called the line bold and striking. Most teams on this route descend via one of the more straightforward routes, which means climbers carry all their gear up and over the mountain. The ridge is almost always climbed in the early part of the season, May through mid-July, because risks increase as the snow and ice melt. As the glacier softens, rock and icefall become increasingly hazardous. Even the smallest chunks of ice, if dropped from 1,000 feet above a climber, can be deadly. The route is exciting but known to be incredibly demanding physically, as it is 5,000 feet of vertical climbing on Rainier's heavily glaciated north face. Hanging over most of the route is the Liberty Cap, a glacier that regularly sheds ice down the mountain. Guides describe the trip as a grueling 5-day trek. Participants carry 50-pound packs up 50-degree slopes for as long as 8 hours a day. One brochure warns clients, "You need to be in the best shape of your life." Because of the route's challenges, it is held in high regard within the mountaineering community. While the Disappointment Cleaver route has been nicknamed Disney-style mountaineering because of the overcrowding, the Liberty Ridge does not face the same problem. On Liberty Ridge, the only other human beings a climber sees are usually the members of their own party, and their efforts yield panoramic views of Rainier's most dramatic features. But it comes at a cost. Of the 10,000 climbers who attempt Rainier each year, fewer than 200 climb Liberty Ridge. That's less than 2%, and the route accounts for 25% of all climber deaths on the mountain. In 2014, Alpine Ascents International, one of the premier mountaineering guide companies, were set to complete an expedition on Mount Rainier's Liberty Ridge. Alpine Ascents, or AAI, runs expeditions to Everest, Aconcagua, Denali, Kilimanjaro, and more peaks throughout the world. They're known as one of the most established and respected companies in the business, so it only made sense with their background that they would be attempting an ascent of the most difficult ridge on the most dangerous mountain in North America. The expedition would be made up of Eric Britton Kolb, a 34-year-old finance manager from Brooklyn, New York, Mark Mahaney, 26, who worked in IT in St. Paul, Minnesota, Uday Marty, a 40-year-old vice president at Intel based in Singapore, John Mullally, a 40-year-old Seattle native who worked at Microsoft, along with guides 38-year-old Matthew Hedgeman and 28-year-old Eaton Green. Matthew would be the lead guide, as he had climbed Rainier more than 50 times, while his counterpart Eaton had established new routes in the Alaska Range, skied off the summit of Mont Blanc, and had been guiding expeditions since he graduated in 2009. The Alpine Ascents team set out for the Liberty Ridge route on Monday, May 26, 2014, expecting to finish that Friday, 5 days after their start date. Monday and Tuesday went smoothly. As the group climbed, there were no issues or even delays. On Wednesday, the 6 climbers would be spotted at Thumb Rock, a landmark on the route formed by hardened lava at 10,700 feet. At 6:20 p.m., one of the guides called the Alpine Ascents office on a satellite phone to report the team was making camp for the night at 12,800 feet. They were all doing well, and everybody was in good spirits, although they were aware that a storm was starting to blow in. 2 clients sent out text messages that were received by friends, neither of which causing any alarm. At about 7 p.m., one climber texted a photo of the Wednesday night camp to a friend, which was later shown to Alpine Ascents. Out of nowhere, I get a photograph of this camp, and it's a very structured camp, says Todd Burleson, Alpine Ascents founder. I can't see around it because it's white out, but I see the ridge it's on. It's on a nice platform. They've got 3 tents set up. Another member of the team also sent out a message from a spot tracking device at around 7:45 p.m. that was an indication of an all okay signal that included a GPS locator pin, which put the camp somewhere between 12,400 and 12,800 feet. Now, this area was not usually a spot where expeditions would stop to rest, but it didn't raise any major concerns for the Alpine Ascents team, although the biggest conundrum is that the group should have been above the Black Pyramid, one of the deadliest sections of the climb. But Burleson would state, it kinda doesn't make sense. I can't quite figure this out, because there's no place that looks this good at the top of the Black Pyramid. There was no further contact from the team. On the last Thursday in May, an unguided party that had reported seeing the Alpine Ascents team earlier in the week reached the summit via Liberty Ridge, but saw no further signs of the missing climbers. When the group failed to return on Friday, Alpine Ascents called the authorities. That same day, 2 rangers who happened to be on the Liberty route were asked to summit the peak, following the route, taking pictures or searching for anything that could point towards the missing climbers. They found nothing. On Saturday, a search helicopter made a low pass of a nearby cliff face that was 3,000 feet below the last location the climbers were spotted. The helicopter was searching an avalanche area at 9,500 feet when they detected signals from 6 avalanche beacons. Some gear and destroyed tents were also visible in the debris. The zone was a funnel that receives ice and rockfall from several highly active avalanche chutes leading down from the summit, so it was deemed too dangerous to attempt a ground search. Something happened on Wednesday night. Nobody can know with certainty, but the most likely scenario is that rock, snow, or ice fell from above and swept the team off the ridge, tumbling the group over 3,000 feet down the mountain before coming to a stop, then being buried. There was no possible way anyone could have survived. In August, 3 bodies were recovered by helicopter and were later identified as 3 members of the expedition. The remaining 3 bodies were left on the glacier, as there was simply no safe way to recover them. The location makes it impossible to attempt an extended ground rescue, so they are simply at the mercy of the mountain. Charlotte Austin, an experienced climber, guide, and most importantly friend to those that lost their lives, would speak with Eaton Green's mother after the accident, to which she would state, "We can only pray that they were asleep in their tents when it happened." Green's father, a financial risk manager, told Austin that his son had discussed ways for guiding and services to improve their bottom lines by improving compensation and benefits for guides. Austin would also state, "Climbers like to talk about assessing and mitigating risk, Interacting intimately with risk is part of the appeal of operating in the mountains. When you are face to face with the potential perils and personal reward of each action, there is no room for complacency. In the mountains, we put ourselves in some degree of danger, but we also feel alive. We breathe in the sunrise, we use our bodies to their fullest extent. We communicate precisely and with intention. When I watch climbers lace their feet into plastic boots, adjust their crampons, and take the first trembling step, I believe that I know what they are thinking. Is this risk worth the reward? That answer varies. Some climbers summit, others turn back to camp. Regardless of what happens in the alpine though, climbers are all but guaranteed to return to sea level with a better understanding of their own personal risk-reward matrix.